In this video, we're going to go over modules and imports in Python. So Python has a lot of different modules that you can use. They're built into the language and they're pretty easy and simple to access. They're kind of similar to packages in Java or libraries in C++. There are a lot of these. We couldn't possibly cover them all in a single video like this one, but we're going to take a look at some of them here that we might use this semester. So the first one of those is math. And each one of these is going to have a link to the documentation where you can find out more about it. But we already have used some basic mathematical functions, but the math module is going to give us a whole lot of other things. So one thing that it can give, we use the module just by typing import math. You'll typically have your import statements at the top of a Python program. But once we import math, we can use several different things in math. So there we go. So math, m.factorial, we can import math as m. We can also just type math.factorial, if we import math here. So right now this is import math is m. Typically we'll do either one of these. Sometimes people like to have the shorthand, to import a particular module as a particular variable, but either one of these would work. So we just prefix the function. There we go, and we get either one. Once we've imported math or once we import math as m, and then some things you might want to do there. Ceiling function, which will give you the ceiling of a decimal number, or floor, which will give you the floor of a decimal number. Basically, take it to the next value or take it to the lower value. Is not a number is actually pretty useful because we might need to evaluate something or some mathematical evaluation that comes back as not a number. We have access to logarithms, we have access to square roots, we have all of the trigonometric functions like cosine, sine, and tangent. Also some good constants like pi and e and not a number. So these are, Python doesn't really have constants. You can't actually declare a constant in Python, but these variables will kind of work in that way. So you can also import single functions or objects from a module and then just use it directly. So for example, from math import square root, from math import floor, and then you can just use those as if they were declared normally in your particular program. So this will, here we go. So the floor of the square root of 99 is going to be 9. It's going to be a little bit less than 100. We also have a statistics module. So import statistics will allow you to do things like get statistical mean, get median. You can even, like you can use here. Oh, we didn't run the import. There we go. You got to make sure that you do these in order. So if we take a list of, these values, it's going to give us the mean of, everything from 20 to 2,000 counting by 3. So that's going to be a little bit more than 1,000. We also can get the median there. And there's actually a couple of options to generate different distributions of numbers as well. Random will give you some random values. So if you ever need to produce random integers or random numbers, we can import random, and then we can get different random values. A lot of languages have this sort of facility to produce a random value between 0 and 1, non-inclusive of 1. So you kind of get these long decimal numbers that are random. And Python also has a rand int, so here we can run this, and you can see that's going to give you a random number, 7, 8, 9, 10, or 11, and we can run this a few times. You'll see, and that all goes all the way up to 12, so 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, so you can see that that's inclusive of those two. So if you run this enough times, you'll get everything between 7 and 12. You can also get these distributions, so we can randomly generate different distributions. So you can see uniform distribution is going to give us just sort of equally weighted random values. We can also use a few others, like normal distributions as well. So random in conjunction with statistics can give you some interesting capabilities to generate data sets pretty easily. Datetime is a module that you might use frequently. It's used to access dates and times, so it's appropriately named. So if we import datetime, probably the most common thing you'll see is datetime.datetime.now, which that's a little bit of a confusing bit of code, but datetime is the module, but there's also a datetime object inside of the datetime module. So module, object, and then the method on the object. So this is going to give us the year, the month, the day, which I don't know. I don't. Today's September 4th, so I think that it's it's probably set on potentially GMT, because it's, this is actually showing today, September 4th. So it's probably forward a little bit. And then the hour, and then the minutes, seconds, and then I think this is microseconds here at the end. Python uses microseconds. We might also want to construct a particular day in the past, so we use datetime.datetime, and then you can use named parameters to generate that. And then another common capability in datetime is just determining the difference between times. So you can see, if we take March 31st of 2021 and now, and we subtract those, what you'll get is a time delta object. And then you can also use this to generate time deltas. So, if we have today, which is, we declared today up here as datetime.datetime now, and then you can see 180 days ago, that's going to be March 9th. So, date time and time deltas, we can use those later. You don't have to think too overly hard about these. We're going to incorporate those as we get it through further in the class. OS is going to provide us some functions and objects for interacting with the operating system, things like file paths, working with files. So if we import OS, we can see what the OS is running here. So this is POSIX running on the on this particular machine. And we can see the different keys, so lots of different things going on in the machine that this is running on. And we can also get the current working directory. This will tell us, so /content, based on the root here. So we're going to get more into OS a little bit later. Now, logging is another useful one for us. We can log things, and this is going to be more valuable as we get out of working with our own programs and getting more into a remote environment. So we can retrieve a logger, and then from there we can just send debug messages, we can send info messages, and we can send error messages. So error messages, you'll note, are being output directly, whereas I believe that the debug and info logs, you have to look somewhere else for those. Also, finally, unit testing. We'll get into unit testing later, but basically, unit testing allows you to ensure that your test operates as appropriate. Unit testing is actually pretty valuable, so I think that it's useful to try it out. I think that as we work through the code that we'll write for this class, it's probably useful to also include unit tests. They'll ensure that your code is working properly, and then as you make more and more modifications, you can make sure that you're still passing the unit test. When you're working in a group project, this can be pretty valuable. But we'll get into that in a later video here. For now, thanks for watching this one. Go ahead and experiment and play around with some of these modules, and we'll catch you next time.